And welcome back to coverage here of the Neon Dynasty Championship. Marshall Sutcliffe with Cedric Phillips, and we're all set here for the upper semifinal. Cedric, as we come in, we're going to be watching Zhi Yimin play against Zach Dunn. They are teammates and playing a near mirror match.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, subtle differences here and there between their Mardu mid-range decks as far as numbers are concerned, but as far as what they're trying to do with their deck, nah, this is the exact same thing, which means we're going to be in for what I believe to be, Marshall, a pretty grindy affair.
Yeah, it definitely has the makings to be a bit of a grind fest, but we'll find out shortly here. Interesting to note, too, how much effort do you think the players put into preparation for the mirror? You know, they took a deck that is wasn't one of the key staple archetypes of the format coming in. Do you think that they were focusing on that?
Well, I find it to be unlikely, but not impossible. I mean, look, coming into this, I think the story has been the same from every person we've talked to, especially those in the top 8, which is, all right, we wanted to beat runes, ... Okay, well, we did that. Everybody did that. Okay, so what else did you prepare against? You know, what else did you prepare for? Did you test the mirror? Were you simply with this Mardu mid-range deck, were you saying, okay, let's make sure we're good against runes, let's make sure we're good against, you know, aggressive decks, let's make sure we're good against Azorius decks, and then, you know, if we get paired up against each other, we get paired up against each other, which is what a lot of people end up doing, especially when there's 2 formats to prepare for.
Interesting position in the tournament for these two as well as they develop the early stages of their game plans here. We're in the upper semifinals, and that means that these two players just won their opening match in the quarters. And that was a huge, huge accomplishment because that actually put both of these players into the World Championship. There has to be some temptation here from them to kind of do the sigh of relief, right? Hey, top 8'd, secured my world seat, and just kind of let your guard down a bit.
I think it's somewhat natural to have that be a thing that crosses your mind, which is, okay, I made the Sunday stage. Okay, I won the really high leverage first match. All right, well, mission accomplished. Anything else on top of this is gravy. But the gravy here is pretty nice, right? We're talking trophy, we're talking bragging rights, we're talking a whole bunch of money, and, you know, maybe even more than that. Who knows? So, to me, don't put that guard down. You know, you still have plenty of big matches to be played and put yourself into the history books here with this fantastic game that you and I have the privilege of covering. So there's still plenty of work to be done here for both of these players.
Absolutely. And, you know, these opportunities don't come up that often. Even if you're a really great Magic player, you know, top 8, an event like this doesn't come around very often. And you really want to try to capitalize while you're there. So let's see if these players can. So far, they've managed to keep their boards cleared. Not a lot there. There was a Valky on the battlefield for a short minute, but he's gone. And now, wow, 3 City Stalker Connoisseur in hand for G here. That could absolutely tear apart Zach's hand over the next few turns.
Yeah, and this card brings a lot of value alongside with it. You think I'd be talking about Sorin because it's a Planeswalker, but no. I'm talking about City Stalker Connoisseur and those blood tokens that it's going to bring along with it and everything else. So this card is incredibly powerful, but it's not time to cast it just yet. Skyclave Apparition off the top will take care of that problematic Sorin. And now, as you see, wow, Zach Dunn's hand, gonna be some trouble for him.
Looking a little rough here. This last sequence for Zach was just a disaster. He played out the Sorin to get it out of his hand. He knows about the City Stalker Connoisseurs in hand there for G. So he plays it great, and he's like, I'm going to, you know, bolster it by plussing. I'm not going to get any on board right now. I'm just going to keep these cards flowing. He ends up drawing an extra land. He's got 4 lands. Well, that makes the City Stalker Connoisseur a little less good, right? Like, it's going to just discard a land, so not the end of the world there. But G had put Skyclave Apparition on top of the library, drew it, took out the Sorin, and it's a major setback here as Zach just has nothing going on at this point with 4 lands in hand.
Yeah, now the City Stalker Connoisseurs can hit lands, of course, because, look, lands do have a mana value. It's not particularly high in 0, but it is a mana value nonetheless. So City Stalker Connoisseur is going to take the highest amongst those, and Zach will have the ability to choose.
But you got to be happy, right, that at least you didn't get stuck with like 1 spell in hand, and it's just going to take one of these, you know, one of these lands of your choice here. Not a huge deal for Zach. He also should be able to cast anything he draws, which he's going to draw Skyclave Apparition in this case.
Yeah, so keeping it positive, you're losing some useless lands. You got plenty of mana, so that's not a concern. All your colors are online as well, so life is good in that regard. The apparition off the top, as you mentioned, is here, and that can clear a little something out of the way. Depends on what you want to target. So, not doing terribly given the circumstances. Clearly, could be doing significantly better.
So 4/4 on the battlefield joins the Skyclave apparition, and this will at least give Zach a chance to start attacking a bit. The downside, of course, is that City Stalker Connoisseur also has Death Touch and also makes a blood token, which, by the way, is being cashed in here potentially off of this Shattered Sanctum. That card is so good. One of the ones we've really highlighted over the course of this weekend as one of the best cards in the format. Woo! There's Skyclave Apparition.
Yeah, a couple of real draw steps there. Apparition one, Duress the other. Duress, of course, not going to be particularly good. May want to lead out with it just to make sure that the coast is clear. But past that, I think you pick up on that a little bit of information, right? Of, okay, last turn I cast City Stalker Connoisseur, I hit a land. Then you drew and played Skyclave Apparition, which means that was your draw step. Otherwise, my Connoisseur would have hit it, which means that, yeah, I think the rest of your hand is lands, which would lead me to believe to not lead out with Duress, given the information that you gained over the past turn.
City Stalker Connoisseur is going to hit the red zone. A little bit of a forced block here for Zach. He can let it through, but the downside is he's going to be facing another City Stalker Connoisseur on the other side. And if he doesn't find a removal spell, he'll just end up having to trade for that one anyway. So a little bit of a pickle here for Zach. Decides he's just going to take his medicine here and trade it off.
So here is that other Connoisseur. Again, no reason to duress because of what happened last turn with the Connoisseur, along with what Zach did on his turn. So another land's going to bite the dust, another blood token on the way, and actually duress is kind of the perfect card to discard to the blood token.
There you go. Takenuma off the top of the library here for Zach could prove nice. It's a little slow in a juncture like this, but he's got a lot of mana at his disposal. I wonder if he has anything decent in the yard already.
Yeah, we haven't seen much action, right? If Skyclave Apparition dies, that's a fine enough target.
Yeah.
But, ignoring that, there's not much.
Valky earlier, right?
Yes, yeah. So I suppose you could try to set up a turn where it is get back Valky and maybe a little Tibalt action, perhaps.
Yeah, he could do it now. He could also empty out his hand. He knows about the last City Stalker Connoisseur and try to make that a little worse.
Sure.
But he's just going to hang on for now. Here comes the duress getting blood tokened away as you described, Cedric. Let's see if that action keeps flowing. Ooh, it does. Wedding announcement for G.
That's certainly a powerful card there. I mean, at this point, when you're in a mid-range mirror like this, and both players have access to discard and all this other stuff, right? So you're not going to be able to really keep any key cards in your hand in most instances. Just something that plays to the battlefield like Wedding Announcement is something you're more than happy with.
Yeah, he can use that as a source of card advantage and board advantage going forward. G taking a look at options here with Skyclave Apparition and Wedding Announcement.
Important turn to figure out how you want to sequence action here, because you do wonder, okay, did Zach draw something of consequence on his turn, and what are the things that he could have drawn? Again, these players did get ready together. They're familiar with each other's deck list, playing the same decks. So they know kind of the play patterns as well. So you do kind of want to take as many things into account as possible before making decisions.
That's right. There's a Skyclave Apparition taking out the opposing Skyclave Apparition. That's going to make 8 power total on the battlefield here for G. He's going to play Forsaken Crossroads. He was on the draw this game, so he actually gets to decide. But he says, I'm going to untap the thing because I want Wedding Announcement this turn as well. Big turn here for G. And Zach's going to have to find some help with Takenuma. It may be too late at this point. This is it's a lot of power he's facing down. Let's find out.
Oh,
he can get a Connoisseur or the Valky.
Mm-hmm.
See if he has any other options. He looked very quickly there.
It's a very nice value one of that these decks can play as far as the land is concerned. Enters the battlefield and tap. You don't have to worry about any weird non-basic hate. and just has some good relevant text, especially in a mid-range mirror like this.
Oh yeah, we're going to be seeing these cards for as long as they're around. Downside very low, upside very, very high. These are some of the best spell lands we've ever seen.
Yep.
There it is, City Stalker Connoisseur, which can
Okay.
take out the other. And there's a Vanishing Verse also, so getting back into it.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty nice 1-2. So there, take care of the Connoisseur. Probably hold the land because you can discard that to a blood token later, and you still have the ability to cast Vanishing Verse. So this is actually pretty good sequence there for Zach.
Yeah, curious to see how Zhi wants to approach it, and then Zach as well, because if Zhi gets to attack with multiple creatures, which is exactly what just happened, then Wedding Announcement is going to be another card into hand here for Zhi. But Zach seems okay with this exchange. And there's Temple of the Frost Dragon, or Cave of the Frost Dragon, excuse me. And there we go. Before end step trigger.
Mm-hmm.
Very key there. There was a stop. Vanishing Verse is going to take out Wedding Announcement.
Another verse is nice here, too. So this is actually pretty nice here for Zach Dunn. Again, has that land to throw away to the blood token. Another removal spell here in Vanishing Verse to destroy a target non-monocolored permanent, excuse me. So, fortunate draw steps. But again, when you're playing a mid-range mirror like this, you're going to have some high leverage draws, and you're going to have some pretty poor draws as well. That's what makes mid-range grindy mirrors like this actually really quite swingy at times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially these value-oriented ones where it can really snowball, right? Like, you know, G is really still riding the wave from having drawn 3 City Stalker Connoisseur over the course of the early mid-game. Wow, but there's another one now for Zach. Unfortunately for Zach, there's no cards in hand, so he won't get full value, but a 3/3 Death Touch actually doesn't look too bad here.
No, 3/3 Death Touch on this battlefield that also generates that blood token is not a bad place to be, in my estimation.
Yeah, it's very similar. Either way, he takes about the same amount of mana. Wow, Zhi is on fire. Sorin the Mirthless now off the top of the library as well. The hits just keep on coming.
Yeah, welcome to Mid-Range Mania, folks. Welcome to Mid-Range Mania, where these players have all of their mana, and now it's, okay, we've shredded each other's hands. Who's got the best cards to draw and who draws them, excuse me.
One interesting thing that could happen potentially is if Zhi goes for Sorin and pluses it and finds a card that he can't deploy right away, say a 4-mana card or something like that, then the City Stalker Connoisseur could actually nab it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also wondering if Zhi would prefer just to add more to the board right now.
Yes,
and look at this careful attack here from Zhi. Smart.
Yep.
Sniffed out the removal spell here and said, I don't necessarily need to just throw my my creature into a potential blocker. So let's see. With now only 1 power left on the board, let's see what he wants to do. Oh, he's going to plus it still. Oh, and look, it is the Wandering Emperor. That's going to get stranded in hand. And this City Stalker Connoisseur is going to be on the battlefield right quick.
Yeah, I'd like to believe that's the case. Yeah, I mean, Skyclave Apparition is appealing to take care of Sorin, but City Stalker Connoisseur greater than sign the Wandering Emperor right now, it seems. Obviously, you'd love to be able to play both, but you can only choose one. Boy, that's tough. Which one is the right one? I think it's Connoisseur instead of Apparition taking care of Sorin, but boy, is it close.
Yeah, that's a tough one. So tempting to just get that Wandering Emperor out of hand, and that's what's going to happen here for Zach. But he does still need to deal with Sorin the Mirthless, and you know, he's in a position to do so, right? He's got Skyclave Apparition. He also just has an attacker, right? He can just send in with the Connoisseur, although now that we say that, wow, that's really nice too. Yeah. The last City Stalker Connoisseur here for Zhi, that's number 4. Brutality here from Zhi Yimin. He is really just laying it on at this point.
This is
wow.
And this is why you had to think about it a little bit on that turn, right? About if I do want to actually play the Skyclave Apparition, because when you're in a mid-range mirror like this, Marshall, every single card counts. One card that I think of in a matchup like this is something like a Tireless Tracker. You remember the games where that card would just be in play for 1 or 2 turns, make a couple of clues, and it's like, yeah, one or two cards ahead of you and you can't catch up. And speaking of not being able to catch
my
up.
God, he just doesn't stop. Now he
No,
trots
he
Valky,
doesn't.
God of Lies, and he has the mana to cast it as a Planeswalker here. Go Tibalt.
You just get deeper and deeper into your deck to find those key one-ofs and key powerful cards like this. Now Tibalt has shown up, and now it's 2 Planeswalkers to 0. And I got a hard time seeing Zach Dunn getting back into this game.
Yeah, somehow G's going to be able to cast 5 City Stalker Connoisseur this game as he just exiled one with Tibalt. It's
well,
like...
Can't stop, won't stop.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Oh, yes, here we go. To the
have?
cave's entrance we go.
Oh, man. Cedric loves this dungeon stuff now.
Yes.
And now he's just laying it on thick. Here comes a 2/3 flying vampire with the lifelink off of Sorin. And I think that G has recognized, oh, wow, there's Lolth off the top, too. Hey, these top decks go both ways. These are some big hitters, especially if Zach can find something next turn. The question is, how long can he survive with Tibalt on the battlefield?
This one's a hard one to overcome, right? I mean, we're talking about a 7-mana Planeswalker here in Tibalt. This card's no joke.
He finds Duress, which isn't going to do much, but Tainted Adversary as well. That could add a lot of power and toughness to the battlefield. Maybe even just lock this thing up.
Yep. With 2 active Planeswalkers to 1, you know, you can kind of look at Fable of the Mirror Breaker as kind of a makeshift Planeswalker in some respects. It's going to transform and, you know, you might be able to start doing its thing. I don't know if there's going to be enough time for all of that, but when we're in matchups like this, I always just look at the Planeswalker advantage. It's 2-1 right now in favor of Zvi, excuse me, and that's huge.
Incredible top decks. Honestly, both players, like Zach's actually had a pretty good run too, but it's just been dwarfed by what G's doing. He's just absolutely crushing off the top of the library.
Now it's just time to figure out, okay, what's the best way to navigate to try to get this one over with? Is it important for me to get Lolth off the battlefield if there's a clean way for me to do that? You see, it looks like some creatures are going to be headed that way. Maybe we're splitting up attacks a little bit. It's the biggest priority at this moment, I think, which is get this annoying Planeswalker off the battlefield. Oh, yes, here we go.
Where we want to go.
Are you familiar with the Goblin Lair?
So, there are blocks available here for Zach. He could keep Lolth around. He's even going to go for the double block here with his 2 Reach Menace Spiders.
We will slay menace.
And that'll take out the token. The Triumphant Adventurer picks up first strike on G's turn, so it's going to survive combat here. But as you can see, Lolth's static has added quite a bit of loyalty there, up to 4, even after those blocks.
Yeah, but so much more to do on this turn. Make a creature, make a City Stalker Connoisseur.
Number 5.
Yep. Fable of the Mirror Breaker. And Zach has only drawn a land.
Right, so Lolth can make a couple more spiders. But super tough spot here for Zach Dunn. Looks overwhelmed, finally. It's been gradual progression, you know, no damage at all last turn on Zach, but as you can see, the board state just spiraling out of control as Zhi Yimin applies maximum pressure with 2 Planeswalkers, whole bunch of creatures, good backup plans with the blood tokens there as well, and even a Fable of the Mirror Breaker about to transform. Everything coming up G here.
I agree with you, partner. I really do. But this is... it's been a while since I feel like I've watched one of these. If this is what a mid-range mirror can look like, especially when it's not blue-based, you know, it's just there's no counter spells really running around, so there's going to be some discard spells in the early stage of things that can be back-breaking. Pretty poor as far as being drawn in the late game. Here's looking at you, Duress, but, you know, there's going to be just some huge top decks here for ideally both players over the course of this match.
I'm kind of here for it, you know?
No, I think it's fun. I do. I think everything is fun in small doses. And for this matchup, you know, you're going to see, empty battlefield, both players kind of fumbling and stumbling along, and then boom, Planeswalker. That's just what's going to happen.
And here's a huge attack step now from Zhi.
Perhaps it's time to go into the storeroom.
Storeroom it is. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, though it doesn't look like it's going to be one of the ones coming in just yet. Here's Cave of the Frost Dragon getting activated. So 2/2/1s with reach and a 3/4 flyer. But a fair bit of death touch coming across with the double City Stalker Connoisseur and even the Triumphant Adventurer with death touch. Still, Zach is managing to stay alive and keeping the loyalty on Lolth reasonably high. Back up to 4 it goes, but come on, how much more pressure can you take here? Because at some point, the dam is going to break, and it's going to end in one big turn. And it looks like that turn is coming up real quick here.
Yeah, we're just about there, right? With these Planeswalkers on the battlefield, Portable Hole is not going to be enough. Vanishing
Yeah, we're there. We got
Vanishing Verse is an answer to whatever. So
yeah, just take out a token and then just jam. Yeah, so this is going to be GG here for Zhi Yimin in game number 1. In the mirror match, these players tested together for the tournament. They were part of the same team. So they certainly know the ins and outs of how the other player plays the deck, what they think about it, and the deck itself. They'll know by heart as well. I like it, Zach. Double blocking at the very end.
Yeah, show that Vampire's his boss.
Yeah, there you go. Unfortunately, his life total went from 10 to -10 in that attack step. And that's going to be game number 1 going to Zhi Yimin as the players consult sideboards. I wonder if sideboard guides go out the window at this point, right? Like, you have an idea of what you might want to board for the mirror, but if you didn't put that much testing into it, you got to try to figure out what your opponent's doing.
Yeah, I think, in a matchup like this, you just want to make it so that your top decks are as live as possible, as we saw how powerful and important that was in that game. So, again, I think when we talked about at the very top of the matchup, how much did they test for the mirror? Maybe a little, again, preparing for runes and some other strategies, I imagine, is what this team did do. And so, to me, the way that these games are going to play out is how can I generate card advantage? How can I ensure that my top decks are as good as they can be? A card like Archon of Emeria, not for this matchup, for runes. We all know that now, so that's going to bite the dust. You're going to see discard spells like Duress probably bite the dust. Some removal spells not be so great, but some high leverage draw steps like Planeswalkers or Lisa or Wedding Announcement, yes, please. Also, the Bank Buster as well. So both players have a lot of good options to, 1, be able to generate card advantage, and 2, ensure that they have a very powerful top deck in their deck over the course of the games, be it Planeswalkers, be it Lisa, Bank Buster, whatever.
Interesting to kind of view it that way, right? Let's just turn our libraries face up and see how much power can we put into these things. That's not normally the name of the game, right? Normally you're going for like a kind of a balance, right? Of like, okay, power, disruption, things that solve problems that I don't have answers for otherwise, and then as much power as I can put in after that. Here we're going to see that skewed over further towards the raw power end of things, because in the mid-range matchups, like you said, it's just, if you have an answer for my card, but I can get value out of it first, that's a 2-for-1 in my direction. And if I do that enough times, I'll win. Again, that game went pretty long, but when you really look at the cards that mattered, it was not 4, but actually 5 copies of City Stalker Connoisseur hitting the battlefield for Zhi. And then we have to give a nod to Debalt, which hit the battlefield and really kind of took him to the finish.
What's interesting is the players are sideboarding rather differently here. So you're seeing Valky for Zach Dunn headed out. You're seeing Duresses for Zvi headed out. And it's kind of just like, there's differing strategies here. Maybe it's a play draw thing. Maybe G thinks something else is going on here. Maybe Zach thinks something else is going on here. But they're clearly, at least in my opinion, not on the same page on how to sideboard, which is also going to make this fun.
Feel like I really wouldn't want Duress here.
I think I mostly agree. I mean, it's a bad draw in the mid game and a horrible draw in the late game, but it's a fine draw in the early stages of the game.
Right.
So it's high variance, I guess I would say, and you don't have control over if it's going to be in your opening hand or if it's going to be what you draw on turn 7.
Yeah, I also just sort of assume that the dust will settle on these games without, where like people tend to chew apart each other's boards. It's kind of a back and forth, and then something sticks. You mentioned it, a planeswalker, right? Like that's the most common way that we see that happen. And yes, duress can take away a planeswalker if timed correctly, but if not, it's kind of a disaster. Also, its highest ceiling is a 1-for-1, right? Where like a lot of these threats, that's just not true. You know, look at the cards in hand here for Zhi. Wedding Announcement definitely has the ability to draw extra cards. Lisa has the ability to provide card advantage as well as just being a great threat. And City Stalker Connoisseur is card advantage, sometimes even on 2 fronts, but definitely on 1. Power Word Kill's the only 1-for-1 in hand here for Zhi. If you look up at the top for Zach, it's the exact same thing. 1 removal spell, but then 2-for-1, 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 and then the Wandering Emperor sometimes even gets you more than that.
Totally agree with you.
All right, Vanishing Verse is going to kill that Wedding Announcement. Not going to be able to make it to the wedding. Have something going on that weekend.
Yeah, a little busy. Just a
City
little
Stalker
busy.
Connoisseur, ouch, is going to take out Lisa, Forgotten Archangel. Soul Transfer, though, off the top could be good here for Zhi. It's going to be City Stalker Connoisseur right back at you, though. And it looks like that's going to nab another big hitter, as it does the Wandering Emperor. So, boy, these Connoisseurs just, even in the playfield, shall we say, taking out all the really good stuff from the opponent.
And making blood tokens as well. So let the games begin here, folks. You do see Soul Transfer out there on the left, 1 BB. Choose one. If you control an artifact and enchantment as you cast a spell, you can choose both. Exile target creature or planeswalker. Return target creature or planeswalker from your graveyard to your hand. That has a wide range in this matchup as well. I mean, that thing can be a game-altering play, or it can just be okay. So I'm interested to see how that's going to shake out in this particular game.
Also curious about how that's going to go. It's worth noting that with the Soul Transfer in hand, Zhi's going to want to try to hang on to that blood token and not crack it until after the Soul Transfer is used up, just to give him the chance to try to find an enchantment to go along with it.
Totally agree with you, because you want to max value that thing.
Yeah, definitely. Wedding Announcements just are not being well received these days. It looks like everybody's busy that weekend, as this one's going to get Skyclave Apparitioned away. But good news for Zach, it did create a 1-1 before, so at least he got a little bit. Interesting to note the draw here as well. Triple Skyclave Apparition in hand now for Zach, and we're going to just see a cascade of those over the next few turns. Is that going to be enough? Can he keep his House of Cards up and ready? Because as you know, when you have like 2 or 3 Skyclave Apparition, you're way ahead. But once one of them starts dying, oftentimes another one will, or you just can't attack.
Yep.
It gets a little fragile.
It can be awkward. It can be awkward. Oh, here we go. Let's do this
Another
again.
Connoisseur, so Apparition down. Man, these Connoisseurs have not been shy in this match.
At least for Zhi.
Ton of these things hit the battlefield. Yeah, geez. This will be number 7. But as you saw, Zach already played one this game as well.
Let's rumble.
Yeah, I'm going to offer up the trade here with the 3-3. Similar situation to game 1. And Zach's going to block again.
Okay.
So another Skyclave Apparition is going to get hit by the Connoisseur.
Maybe more importantly, another blood token joining the fray.
Right, and this one can be used now. Yeah.
Yep.
Boy, those... It makes a blood token, Cedric. Like, seriously?
It does it all. It does
makes
it all.
a blood token? Like, what?
It also gets exiled by Skyclave Apparition. It literally does it all.
Quite routinely.
Yeah.
There it goes. 3 damage coming across. 17 all. Excuse me, 16, 17 after this combat step. But it looks like Zhi wants to cash in one of the blood tokens, see what he can get by discarding this Haunted Ridge. Let's see if he can find, I don't know, another City Stalker Connoisseur, because why not? Okay, well, it's Vanishing Verse. And
Vanishing Verse isn't bad.
Yeah, that's not too bad. And this is kind of what we talked about, right? Now, if Zach wants to attack, if he loses Skyclave Apparition number 2, then all of a sudden there's a 4-4 for Zhi that can block the other one, and then you get a 3-3 back, and the House of Cards will have fallen apart. So Zach is in a very awkward position where he may only be able to attack with the 1-1 here. He's not even going to attack at all.
Yep. And I'm really not that surprised because, you know,
Me neither.
the House of Cards crumbles very badly if there's a removal spell or a Wandering Emperor. So, okay, there's a removal spell. Kill that. Get your 4/4. See if a blood token gets cashed in here or not to discard that Sundown Pass. Looks like the answer is no.
Triumphant Adventurer. G also has the option to just cash in the blood token and sort of give up on the dream of the 2-mode soul transfer. It's fine. You know, you can just play it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to get both modes. It's just a, you know, bit of a blowout when you actually do. I do think he's considering the blood token here.
It feels like G is starting to fall a little behind this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just a scotch.
Right. He's not getting buried, but you know, Fable of the Mirror Breaker is a very prevalent threat here as it's just sitting over there on chapter 1, but you know, that's the type of card that he needs to keep an answer for as well. Perhaps the soul transfer will be earmarked for that. Ooh, crunches for 4. Down to 13 goes Zach.
I mean, it has Hive of the Eye Tyrant at the ready to do some blocking just like he did last turn, but is that all that... Is that his entire turn? Do you want to play Triumphant Adventurer, which is a fine blocker? But maybe there's some venturing to be done. So maybe you say, if you attack, I'll take the damage, and then do some venturing to start generating a little bit of incremental card advantage. Is there any reason to sacrifice this blood token right now? I mean, you're seeing the time tick away here on G. This is clearly a difficult decision right now at this stage of the game.
Really deep in the tank here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what you're supposed to do because he's not super far behind, but I think he's behind far enough, and he wants to be able to maximize his turn and his mana.
I don't know, I guess just why wouldn't you play the Adventurer is the question.
I guess it just depends.
To activate the Hive this time.
Yeah, it just depends on what your plan is with to me, it depends on what your plan is with the Adventurer. You play the Adventurer, are you blocking with it?
No.
All right, so so that means that if I'm playing it, my plan is to attack with it. Which, all right.
I want to get in a dungeon.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think too. Is like this kind of like I'm a little bit behind. I'm going to be a little further behind with the Fable. Maybe I just cast my Soul Transfer right now. I'm not going to get maximum value, but you know it's better than nothing. Also, I'm like running out of timeouts, so I got to make a call now on what I want to do. Lisa is a busted card if it sticks in the battlefield, so okay. Let's try this.
Okay, so Soul Transfer gets back Lisa, Triumphant Adventure on the battlefield. Still has the blood token, keeps the land in hand for that. Zach could upgrade a little here, but he's not going to. Does he get to cast Tybalt this turn? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He does. That's why he's not getting rid of that land. Wow. Is Tybalt just going to be the game of the card of the match here? That really did propel Zhi to the victory there in the first game. And let's see if he can do it here. Well, it's going to plus it 7 loyalty on that card. No cards in hand here for Zach. So even though Zhi has drawn a never-ending stream of City Stalker Connoisseurs, this one actually won't hit anything.
Yeah, so Tybalt is like the ultimate game breaker, right? Because it's in a mid-range mirror like this, it is like, okay, if you can stick like the most expensive thing that has like the most lines of text, it's probably the best thing that you can do. And Tybalt, the front side of Tybalt Valky, it's fine. It's nothing special. Get you a little information. You know, probably needs to be killed at some point, whatever. But Tybalt is the kind of card that once it's on the battlefield, as you think about Planeswalkers in this matchup, it needs to die immediately. Like, it's not the kind of thing that you can allow your opponent to activate multiple times in a game. Because if that happens, you're not coming back from that. And so now the pressure is on Zhi to figure out a way to get this thing off of the battlefield immediately, and almost ran out of time, and now has to kind of make a bleh attack.
A hasty attack, yeah. This really couldn't have gone worse for Zhi, the way that he planned out this turn. You know, Zach, gets to kind of have it over Zhi in both ways, because the soul transfer was an answer for Tybalt, but instead he decided to get Lisa with it. Okay, that makes sense. Lisa's one of the best threats. But now that Tybalt's there, he can't even play Lisa because it's just going to get exiled, and then Zach will have access to it. It's like actually just much worse for you if you're Zhi to play it. The only thing it does is force Tybalt to use up some loyalty.
Depending on what the draw step is, of course. So we get a little reflection.
There it is.
There it is.
I mean, it's a forced play. That's the only upside here for Zhi. But where are we going now? Right? Like,
Yep.
Tybalt's still there. Zach's certainly interested in having a copy of Lisa on his side of the battlefield.
Yeah, this is getting really tough here for Zhi. Tybalt really is just a game breaker.
I am
in
not
this
seeing
matchup.
a way back here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so much. The thing has so much loyalty, and like the incremental advantages that you get from venturing through the dungeon have nothing on Tybalt just activating.
So let's see what Zach wants to do. He's got plenty of good options. Basically can play Lisa or can play Fable plus Wedding Announcement. Oh, wait, with a treasure. That can be Lisa plus either 3-drop.
Very true.
Pretty good turn.
Pretty good turn.
Kill your opponent's Lisa, play it on your side, and play Wedding Announcement.
And now City Stalker Connoisseur goes from ace to into the graveyard.
Yeah, you know, now you start thinking about cards like Farewell or something, which I don't even think they have access to. So
Yep.
that is going to be game number 2, going to Zach Dunn and his copy of Tybalt.
Yes.
Again, when the dust settles, who has a powerful Planeswalker, of which there are many in these decks, but that's, as you said, easily the most powerful one.
So now we're switching things up, play draw, where Zach is going to be on the draw and Zhi is going to be on the play. So now I'm looking at, okay, Zach brought in, looks like he brought in another copy of Duress. He was down to 1, now back up to 2. Rest of this stuff being out of the deck makes a lot of sense. You know, again, Archon of Mirror, not for this matchup, does have 2 copies of Tybalt. Wandering Emperor, he's gotten mostly away from. Still has all these City Stalker Connoisseurs and Lulths and Lisas and all that stuff. So, okay, that kind of all makes sense. And then if you look at Zhi's side of things, there is the Tybalt / Valky. There's like one main, one board right now. The Bank Buster is hiding in the sideboard. The Duresses are all gone. So, you know, again, you see a difference in philosophy depending on the play draw and just the approach to the matchup in general.
Yeah, that's the interesting part to me, right? Because there has to be some approximation of correct sideboarding, right? The things that maximize the things that are the most important. And these players disagree on that. Not hugely, but enough. All right, let's get into game number 3 here in our upper semifinal. We're playing Alchemy. If you're just joining us, thanks so much for coming along. We appreciate your company. And we've got a real mid-range slugfest on our hands here. Both of the games, players have been able to cast spells. They've developed their lands. They've developed their boards. And it's just come down to raw attrition. Just who can get more 2-for-1s over the other person. And I'm here for it. I kind of feeling it, you know, just first match of the day for you and I said, and we're just going to see who can bring the most firepower to the table here.
No, it's just this is mid-range mania. This is what it looks like. You know, just kind of a slugfest. Players kind of throwing haymakers back and forth. Sometimes those haymakers are good. Other times they're bad. Here's looking at you, City Stalker Connoisseur. You can be an ace, or you can be discarded to a blood token. Depends on how the game goes.
By the way, there it is, City Soccer Connoisseur off the top for Zhi. He just doesn't leave home without it. That card has been really good for him, though it wasn't quite enough before. Some really interesting things about Tybalt as well. Valky in this case are that it actually dodges City Soccer Connoisseur because it's 2-drop in your hand. By the way, there's another one. So you often will still have it even into the late game, even though it's really a 7-mana spell for you a lot of the time. That's kind of cool. It also dodges Duress while it's in your hand, yet it's one of your most important late game planeswalkers.
Very good call on both points. Now, it looks as though we may be doing some venturing here with the Triumphant Adventurer, at least potentially. Start to build up that small incremental advantage.
Fable of the Mirror Breaker, one of the breakout cards for this tournament. I would say
For sure.
Yeah, that card and the Wandering Emperor are kind of the two that really stand out to me from Neon Dynasty as big hitters that have had a huge impact. People stretching their mana bases for Fable of the Mirror Breaker like we see here. And it's really been impressive. Gives you 2 creatures, which isn't normal for a saga. Generally speaking, they give you 1 at the end and you get some other stuff, but this one gives you immediate board presence. Sure, it's just a 2/2, but those treasure tokens add up really quickly, and you even see the hesitation there by Zach. Do I need to leave back this stupid thing to block this 2/2? As it turns out, it's going to get in there, get into the dungeon, and then play a wedding announcement.
Discard up to 2. I think Tainted Adversary is not really what this game is about right now, so maybe that one bites the dust.
Yeah, it does feel like the next multiple turns are going to be taken up by City Stalker connoisseurs, and that the Tainted Adversary is just so far down the line, you may just prefer to cash that in. Not sure about the land situation. You know, G may prioritize hitting lands and just keep both of them to be safe, or maybe just says, you know, I can probably get one. I'll probably hit one again anyway down the line, and I've already got 4 for my City Stalker connoisseur this turn and next turn anyway.
Yeah, the land situation is kind of interesting, right? Because you also have this goblin that's going to be able to make treasures that can generate temporary mana for you. So, you know, I could see an argument for discard Tainted Adversary, discard a land, find 2 new cards, even though your plays are kind of sequenced out of City Stalker Connoisseur, at least this turn, and then probably the next turn as well. But, you know, this is high upside to get rid of these 2 cards. And okay, sure, Sorin in a land.
Yeah, that's pretty good here. Tell you, G is kind of working that rope here a little bit.
A little bit.
Not the crispest of plays here from G, really kind of going through everything. And, you know, you can't blame him. You have to really make sure that you do exactly what you need to do when you need to do it when you're at this stage of the tournament. But I don't know if the stress level goes up for G, but when I see that rope starting to get down there, I start going, oh, okay, I got to do something.
Well, Valky has shown up. We're a little ways away from the Tibalt aspect of things, but now it's something for Zach Dunn to play towards, as it's been the game breaker here for both players.
Right.
Marshall, I'm with you with the rope. Look, it gives me a little bit of a nervousness and anxiety whenever that thing shows up to the party.
Both of these players having to navigate a complex mid-range mirror match against teammates. These are some of the hardest things to do at this stage of the tournament. So many options, right? Like, one of the things that you like about playing an aggro deck or a control deck is your primary motivation is usually pretty clear, right? Like with the aggro deck, it's like, I am trying to kill you as soon as I realistically can. And with the control deck, it's usually, I'm trying to make this game go as long as I can make it go, and then I'll generate an advantage. In mid-range, that changes. It changes all the time.
Yep.
Right? And you need to, sometimes it even changes in the middle of the game, and you need to make an adjustment there. And so, you know, these players have all these options. Do I sit back? Do I try to play the longer game? Do I need to try to take control of this thing now? Is the Planeswalker thing the most important? Is life total the most important, or card advantage most important? And that can also change throughout the course of a game as well. So really tough to make all of these decisions and have to change course mid-game sometimes as well, which is why you see the players taking their time.
Well, now both players have a Sorin on the battlefield, so they both effectively have card drawing engines online. They both have 3 spells in hand. They both have the necessary mana to be able to cast spells. There's a slight mana advantage here for G because of those treasures. So to me, it's the next question is who can play multiple spells in a turn. Right now, that question just got answered. You saw Soren plus Wedding Announcement. That's a heck of a turn in the mid game right now, and Zach is going to have to try to keep up with that.
Boy, those treasure tokens really creating this explosive turn here. With 7 mana having been spent, this is a big move for Zhi. Zhi is saying, I am going to assert dominance here, right? I'm going to say, I'm minusing my Soren. I'm going to be pressuring yours. I've got Wedding Announcement out there to either generate some cards or bolster my board state further. And I'm going to burn my 2 treasure tokens here as well. Like, I'm in. This is me on the board. What do you got? Also, Reflection of Kiki Jiki, extremely threatening in these decks. As we see the City Stalker Connoisseur. Now, Zach does not know about that, although he will now.
Yeah, he's going to know right now. See the hand here of City Stalker Connoisseur and Triumphant Adventurer, and that selection is really easy.
Yes. Probably a big part of the reason why he decided to lead with Valky was that information. Because if Zhi gets to play City Stalker Connoisseur and then copy it, it is a disaster for Zach. And he may need to just take out the Reflection straight away.
Yeah, Vanishing Verse has some targets here, folks. You got Reflection of Kiki Jiki, Soren, and Wedding Announcement, and it looks like it's going to be the Planeswalker that's going to bite the dust. So we'll see if that decision. We'll see if that decision ends up being right.
Yeah. I mean, not that he had like great options, but leaving a Reflection of Kiki Jiki on the battlefield, there's a blood token over there. Like, this is some scary stuff if you're in Zach Dunn's seat. Turbo Dungeon with a Triumphant Adventurer, like, can do it all.
Yeah, you definitely can start climbing through that dungeon a lot faster than expected. That's a really good turn for Zach. I mean, kind of gumming up the battlefield a little bit. You've got a 3/4 because Wedding Announcement transformed. So you've got a 3/4, 2/2, a 3/2, a Soren all on the battlefield.
Yeah, those last 2 turns for both players were very assertive.
So I'm going to swing back that advantage back over to Zach here and see, because mid-range matchups are swingy, that advantage bar could swing back the other way, depending on
one blood token.
One blood token can change everything.
Let's see what he hits. Connoisseur. Oh, it's Vanishing Verse.
See, that's not bad. That's not bad.
Oh, it's close too. Oh, it's so close. Yeah, because he'd love to be able to take out that flyer and then just kill Soren, kind of getting a 2-for-1 in a way, but he's not quite there. So I think what he's going to do is copy the adventure here, perhaps, and maybe try to encourage Zach to throw away a creature to protect Soren, something along those lines.
Sure, get a little value that way.
And then he can just Vanishing Verse anyway. Let's see what he does. It's awkward.
We're removing that big arrow, baby.
It is awkward. If he attacks with both at Soren, then he's kind of priced into just killing the 3/4 flyer on the other side. He could do both and then kill the Wedding Invitation, but that still doesn't get Soren off the battlefield, unfortunately. So really just not quite, right? There's just no great option here for Zhi. So he's just going to attack with the token of Triumphant Adventurer. And he's just hoping that Zach throws a creature in front, and he's going to.
Okay. First strike damage, get that out of here. Okay. And you're going to get a 1/1. That's going to die. Reflection will take care of that. And it's the time to catch Vanishing Verse. Okay, so we're holding Vanishing Verse. All right, so kind of interesting. Maybe trying to lay a bit of a trap here, because it does have the necessary mana to cast the powerful instant.
That's right. He's going for upside.
Mm-hmm.
But so is Zach. Zach just got another card off of Soren. It looks like it's a Wedding Announcement here. He's got Fable, Wedding Announcement, Soren, and we'll call it a comparable board, right? He's got a little bit more going on his side, but Reflection of Kiki Jiki is a total, well, it's a mirror breaker, let's just be honest.
Well, yep, fire that pun out there.
Yeah, I really didn't want to, but I kind of walked myself into that corner. But yeah, and he's one card away. I mean, even just the Triumphant Adventurer is okay. right? Like he's getting some value out of that. He's getting through the dungeon. These attacks do matter.
Mm-hmm.
But man, there's some bigger hitters that he could find here as well. Let's see what he does with Vanishing Verse. You know, as much as he hasn't found like the perfect opportunity to fire it off, he probably is feeling a lot of pressure to use it here and not let this game get completely out of hand.
Yeah, because you also kind of want to use your mana on this turn too, depending on what your draw step potentially could be. Now, we saw Zach use a Vanishing Verse on a Sorin when there were a lot of different targets on the battlefield, saying basically, I got to keep your card advantage in check. Zhi had the opportunity to do the same thing, chose not to, leads me to believe that doesn't want to target Sorin. Maybe you want to target Wedding Announcement because it's cranking out 2/2s. And okay.
So this does give him the city, the connoisseur.
Yep.
Combo with the reflection.
Ooh, boy.
Oh, and there's Lise off the top of the library.
That's a draw step.
He's got a lot of things to handle here, though, because one of the issues that he's going to face is he's got the soft lock set up where you play the connoisseur and then you can copy it on your opponent's draw step and take away whatever they got. So they have to draw an instant to do anything. But Zach is drawing 2 cards a turn off of Sorin. So as long as Sorin's on the battlefield, that plan doesn't look quite as good.
Well, I guess step 1 then, Marshall, is let's get Sorin off the battlefield. Ooh, it's dungeon time. To the goblin lair we go. Oh, but wait, there's more. Now, into
Turbo Dungeon.
Yes.
And it certainly matters here as well, especially if he can get one more counter on that flyer or just get rid of the opposing one. But the City Stalker Connoisseur is going to be quite amazing next turn, as not only does he have that combo, but if he wants, he can also just copy it and start sending Death Touchers in at Planeswalkers and stuff. That also works well. Oh, Wandering Emperor here for Zach. Oh man, we are really just unleashing the full power of these mid-range decks this match.
Well, Wandering Emperor is an interesting draw because I think that might just have to kill Reflections of Kiki Jiki now. It's tapped. You get the opportunity to kill it. It's causing a lot of problems. It feels like that might be the best place to go. I'm not entirely sure about that. You know your opponent has City Stalker Connoisseur in hand too, so you know this is not going to be in your hand for a very long time. I mean, this is swinging. I mean, I've been moving this advantage bar up and down and all around. I got to say advantage G right now.
And, you know, I got to say, the way that this has played out, things are kind of evening up here, right? Like as that advantage bar goes back and forth, we're more towards the middle now than, you know, in prior turns. And I'm looking down at the clock here for Zhi. And
yeah, we're under 4 minutes.
4-minute mark here, Cedric. At what point does this start to become very concerning? Because right now, let's just call this board state even, right? One player is probably a bit ahead than the other, but it's not like either player is about to win the game.
I agree.
City Stalker Connoisseur combo could come down here depending on what Zhi wants to do and kind of lock Zach Dunn out of a draw step unless it's an instant.
Well, remember that Reflections of Kiki Jiki is gone now.
Oh, it died. Okay, cool,
yeah,
cool.
Wanderer took care. Wanderer exiled that, so the lock aspect of things no longer an option here for Zhi.
Thank you for that. I did miss that, but still. Oh, okay. Well, cancel that order. There's
you were from the future.
Yeah,
That's all right.
I do that a lot.
That's
I'm
all
often
right.
from the future. But the point being here is that things aren't really going anywhere quickly, and now we're under 3 minutes for Zhi.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a slog.
I'm nervous if I'm Zhi at this point. Like, I'm probably just doing the play by feel, throw stuff on the battlefield, hope it were like. This game isn't going anywhere, right? Like,
well, it's starting to open up a little bit here for Zhi, right? Because it really depends on what Zach draws, and Zach's draw that turn wasn't, in my opinion, exceptional. It was fine. So you know, you see, Wedding Announcements are going to trigger, make a couple of 3/3s. That's pretty good. We're going to see this trigger, get these things out of here. Okay, Aganjo, maybe that rears its ugly head as far as the channel is concerned. And Wedding Announcement being on the battlefield is going to generate more stuff, and there's a blood token. I do think that Zhi is ahead a little bit here. It's hard to say how much, but your time conversation is very relevant right now because now it's 2:20. And this game is a bit of a slog. Now, we're going to go into the dungeon once again and scry land to the bottom, but this is a bit of a slog, and step one is getting this planeswalker off the battlefield, it appears.
I'm nervous. There's so much clicking to happen here as well, like moving through dungeons, deciding things for Fable of the Mirror Breaker once that thing comes back in. And then really a very complicated board at this point, right? I mean, Zhi has kind of simplified things and just sent in 2 Death Touchers. So, like, you figure it out. But, yeah, this is getting very, very sketchy here with this clock now approaching the 2-minute mark. Under 7 minutes for Zach, looking fine on clock.
Yeah, Zach's clock, not a concern. As the battlefield continues to grow here now, a land is not what the doctor ordered whatsoever. There's nothing particularly good to copy with Reflection of Kiki Jiki. Zach's battlefield right now is just slowly but surely getting nibbled away, which is bad news. He needed to draw a spell that turn, and he didn't.
Yeah, so he's falling behind here. The Wandering Emperor, by the way, is pumping out 4/4s that in a couple of turns are going to be even bigger. Crazy. And the Blood Token's going to get rid of Iganjo and find Skyclave Apparition. Another Fable. That might be a little bit too slow here, but this Fable is going to transform, and it's on the battlefield now.
Yeah, and when I mentioned I need to find a removal spell, I mean, finding a Skyclave Apparition is pretty good here, and it feels like to me this is kind of the game winner, assuming there's enough time for all these clicks, because this is going to be able to take care of Reflections at Kiki Jiki, and you can copy Skyclave Apparition and kind of start going down that route and start taking care of these wedding announcements.
I bring my own.
So it looks like Zach may have the shields up here for the turn. The Triumphant Adventurer with Death Touch and First Strike can still come in, but beyond that, everything's going to stay home thanks to that copy in the air. But after that, we could see some combat actually start to happen.
First Strike plus Death Touch means that token is down. Now here's another Fable in the Mirror Breaker. That's going to make another one of those Knucklehead Goblins. Okay.
And those are 3/3s, by the way.
Yep. So now it's just, now it's just kind of, okay, just play stuff.
That's what I would do.
Yep.
Minute and 25 left. I'm just playing stuff. And there's going to be a big attack all coming up in a turn or two here.
Yep.
Because Zhi, I don't think is going to have the luxury of like working through all of the machinations of this board state. And it's going to be tough too, because that Vampire that's now a 6/7 has lifelink.
Yep. So if you can find a way to get that off the battlefield, it makes life a little bit easier. Actually, I'd say it makes life significantly easier.
Like that would probably open up this board completely.
Yeah.
Wandering Emperor. That's not an answer.
Okay, so he wanted to keep that. Okay, so discard nothing, make a blood token. Wandering Emperor can't be played this turn. Triumphant, okay, can go over that way. Remember, these have Death Touch. Gonna venture in the dungeon. I mean, that's more. Oh boy,
it's another card too, because this is a double dungeon trigger here. So we'll get into draw card territory as we approach the 1 minute mark here for Zhi. Oh, this is making me so nervous. Cedric.
Yeah, I mean, Zhi is really far ahead, but look, the clock is part of the game too. And that's part of your responsibility when you're playing at the highest levels of Magic. Both of you have these exact same amount of time to make your decisions, and you don't make them quick enough, this is what happens.
Zach just decides to let the Emperor go. There's another card and another wedding invitation transformed into festivity there. So 3 of them for Zach, 2 of them for Zhi.
Reflection of Kiki Jiki. We're going to see the combo finally.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Zhi, Zach has actually drawn instant speed removal here. So not only does he get to cast a spell, he also gets to break up the combo with it. So really a clutch draw there from Zach just to keep his draw steps flowing down the line. But he's in a very precarious position here. Zhi under a minute to go now, 53 seconds, and it's going to have to find a way to get Zach from 19 to 0 through a 7/8 like linker, 4 4/4s and 2 5/5s.
And I do want to point out that there is also a hive amongst those lands here for Zach Dunn too. So,
ooh, there's Soul Transfer off the top, and he's got both enchantment and artifact covered here. That could be the card that wins it if he can get these things deployed quickly enough.
I want them both.
Return, get rid of the flyer. get something back. Okay, he's going to go for Tainted Adversary, which would give him the most amount of power that he could have. And I think he's just going to ship the team here. He does not have the luxury of getting picky. Nope, only 3 attackers are going to come in.
Okay, so these venture triggers.
Oh, these dungeons are so annoying. He doesn't even want them.
No,
and
he doesn't want them. Yeah, he doesn't want these. Click,
like,
click,
I don't want to make decisions.
click, click, click.
Hive of the Eye Tyrant's going to get activated here. It's a 6/6.
Yeah, just make a goblin. These first strikers plus this air creature. I got to imagine. So first strike, kill both of these things. First strike, flip that switch, kill both of these things. I have to imagine next turn is just untap, draw, attack with everything. I think
right, and like, do you just
be.
pass here? Do you even bother to play any cards?
I don't love playing that.
10 seconds.
You can't do that.
Pass a turn,
Right,
pass a turn, pass a turn.
Attack all button. I hope you're ready.
He can still just go immediately to combat and ship it in and say math is for blockers and hope that he wins the game off of this combat step. Here we go. Can Zhi pull this off? He's only got 9 seconds to go.
The dungeons are the problem. The dungeons are the problem.
Oh no, don't say he's gonna get lost in the dungeon. And you see there's activations from both players. This looks like it's not gonna work out for Zhi. I don't see how he can get through here.
That's too many triggers.
With all of these triggers. And he loses the game. Oh my God, heartbreak for Zhi, who was surely gonna win that game with more time. It's Zach Dunn who wins on clock.